Hey, what's up, everybody? We are back on the on season here. We are just about a week removed from the draft last Thursday. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday night. We've kind of had time to digest the picks, get our thoughts behind them, relook at some film, get maybe some second opinions, and we'll also get into some of the undrafted free agents the Dolphins signed. Some of the guys me and Jason actually think have a shot to make this roster. But more importantly, we have a very, very special guest at the top of the show. Somebody we're excited to have on. Jason, this is a big, not only a big guy, but a big guest with a special message that we're going to bring on here. I know we're excited to have him on.
Oh, absolutely. Big guy, big fan, big heart, and big mission.
Yeah.
We really want to do our best to help him out, spread what he's going through, and help hopefully cross the finish line in a positive way, of course.
Yeah, and we'll throw in some Miami Dolphins talk with him first too. Because that's his love here. What do you say? We bring him on. Let's bring
him on.
Let's bring on our guest. We know him as Ian Berger, but is also known on the Dolphin streets as Big E, 2020 Dolphins Fan of the Year, one of the pillars in the Dolphins community. Ian, it's an honor to have you on, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, George. Thank you, my good friend Jason, who I always love seeing in person. But I appreciate you guys having me on tonight. It's nice. I love talking about the Dolphins, and I know we're going to talk about some other important things too. But
yes,
I'm excited to see you guys.
Yeah, we'll get into the reason why we have you on here, but let's start off with some fun Dolphin stuff. The draft just wrapped up. You said you told us backstage, so you watched the draft. What were your thoughts, especially on the first two guys of the draft and the draft in general for the Miami Dolphins?
I thought, first of all, on the defensive side, we needed a defensive tackle. I really felt it was either between a defensive tackle and a cornerback that we were going to pick with the first pick of the first round. And we got Kenny G, as they like to call him. He doesn't like to be called Kenny G, right? But Kenny, and he's a big boy. He's over 300 pounds. He's athletic. He's good, not just in the run game, but also in the passing game to add some additional pressure to the quarterback. And really, he's probably the missing puzzle piece that we needed to solidify that defensive line as it stands right now, especially with these other guys getting healthy. And the other important thing that people don't really talk a lot about is there aren't a lot of really good defensive tackles available through free agency. So you almost had to pick a solid defensive tackle in the draft. And then on the offensive side of the ball too, Jonah, I think Miami Dolphins fans are probably tired of hearing about Liam Eichenberg. And I think this pick kind of allows for Liam to be that backup role player, which he can really play almost any position on that offensive line if needed, right? We saw him at center last year. He can go on the left side, the right side. Doesn't mean he's great, but if someone gets injured, he'll be there to be able to help out. And so I'm good with those two because I think day one, I think they will be starters for this team. And I think they will be contributors, and that's what you want from your top two picks in the draft. As long as they stay healthy, that's what I pray and I cross my fingers for.
Yeah, I agree. We said this on the show is the message those two guys sent, right? This seemed like, I don't know about you, and this seemed like a Chris Greer draft, right? There was no these flashy speed guys. I think it's a message. I mean, you can't complete it, but like, we're not a soft team. Here's a start of kind of Xing that narrative, right? These two guys, and they didn't stop there. They went their next pick. It was a long wait, Ian. I call it two kind of drafts, right? The first two picks, and then all the way round 5. Who did you like in that round 5? Did you like the Jordan Phillips? Did you like the theme? They kind of went in that third day, right?
Yeah. I think Jordan Phillips, defensive tackle, again, a position of need, right? Outside of Zach Sealer, you didn't really have anyone. So I think that was a good pick. And then two, what I liked about the draft in general, including the 5th round and rounds later, is I said, here's where the Dolphins have the biggest needs, the biggest holes, defensive line, cornerback, safety, and offensive line. And with the draft, they found someone for each of those spots. Now, again, too, doesn't mean that these guys are all going to be starting on day one, but they should be contributors at some point in the season. And you look at the 6th round pick, Ollie Gordon, I didn't think that a running back was really on the radar for the Dolphins. because I felt like we had a good, 1, 2, 3 punch with, what was it, Devon Achane, we got Jalen Wright, and what's his face, Jeff Jr., right?
Jeff
Wilson Jr. You got it.
We
Yes,
got
sir.
Alex Madison coming in too.
Yeah,
Alex Madison too. Yeah, but I really feel like with Ollie, you get a big back who on a 3rd and 2, 4th and 1, give him the ball, he can run up the middle, and that's something that has been lacking for the Dolphins the last couple of seasons. I keep bringing up Lusaka Polite, who, when he was around, you give him the ball, you hand him the ball,
first down,
and you just knew you were getting the first down.
Yeah.
It didn't matter.
Never missed.
Exactly. and I'll tell you, drive stalling because you're not able to make a first down on a 3rd or a 4th is detrimental, and it really has caused more and more problems for this team. So I think he can be a contributor. He's not going to be a day one starter, but I think he's going to be a contributor because I think he's the biggest back that we have right now.
Yeah, I thought that was a big need. Jason, you're going to jump in your second, but I thought if we're going to get it back, it was going to be this style back. They kind of fit. It kind of fit the theme. I know you wanted to go ahead and ask something, Jason.
Well, you have a top-heavy, no pun intended, draft with the 2 big boys, and then you vacate if you're Chris Greer the 3rd, the 4th. Were you upset? I mean, I know you mentioned in our backstage that you were at dinner. You didn't necessarily think of the trade right away, and then all of a sudden they move up. So did you like how it ended up with Greer going out? And of course, you got to consider that 3rd round pick for next year too. What were your thoughts overall about Balin?
Well, I think time is going to tell. I was a little, I guess you could say I was bored between the 3rd and 4th rounds. Right.
The only
that's
one.
the best way to describe it, because I kept watching because I kept thinking the Dolphins may trade up again. They may trade up to one of these rounds because everyone kept saying there's a lot of value in up to the 3rd and 4th rounds for potentially any team, really. So I thought, why not use some 7, 6 round picks, use that new 3rd round pick that you've got for 2026, right? If it made sense, but it didn't make sense. So I think the good thing is that it doesn't feel like the Dolphins panicked at all during this draft. Besides going up and trade and giving up some picks for Jonah, Savaiinaea. I'm going to get it right.
It's a Sava something.
I'll do my Savaiinaea. No, I think I missed a syllable.
We'll go with that. We'll go with that, Jason.
Savaiinaea.
Hey, listen, if we can get Alawale Agunlie correct, we will get Jonah correct here eventually.
We had Ian Badejos, we had Agunlies, we had an Adamakan. We'll get there.
We will. That's so funny.
Yeah. Once he's in the open field doing 2nd level blocks, pancake, we'll learn his name. We'll call him Jonah S, right? All right. So, speaking of, the cornerback position is still a concern for everybody, right? But look at the 3 defensive tackles we drafted. I think the health of Phillips and Chubb are big. Maybe we get the pass rush flowing here, on 4-man line, and we don't need. They mentioned it a couple times. We don't need $20 million corners. You can get by with a Rasul Douglas and maybe one of these kids, Ian. If it's Jason Marshall Jr. we just drafted, which Jason and I will talk on later on the show, or if it's a Storm Duck, one of these kids take up. You don't need 2 big time corners on the outside, especially under the Anthony Weaver defense.
I will tell you I'm pounding the table with that exact same message, George.
Okay.
Because if you have a good defensive line, a good pass rush, a group that can stop the run, but it can also make the life of the quarterback a little bit more difficult, then it makes the safeties' lives easier. It makes the cornerbacks' lives easier because the quarterbacks then, in theory, aren't having a lot of time to allow the play to develop for them to throw the ball down the field. So I'm with you, knowing that Jalen Ramsey's going to be gone. We're not going to have a Pro Bowl, all-pro player back there yet. They could develop into one, but as it stands right now, it's not going to be one. So you're hoping that this front line really makes a difference. And I love the rotation at the defensive end. And I know they're calling them outside linebackers, right? Not defensive ends, unless they go to a 4-3 defense, which they could possibly do as well. But I love what it looks like if everybody's healthy and that rotation starts getting. I mean, you put Chop Robinson in there on 3rd down, and the man exactly. I
want to see what he does. Like, let him move around. Let him, like we used to do with JT.
Yep. JT used to do that. Left side, right side, pick your side.
Good. Let's get it. And I want to shout out everybody in the chat. We got almost 200 people watching. Guys, make sure you come on over YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button. We got Ian Berger, a.k.a. Big E, on talking Dolphins. We're also going to talk what we really have him here on. But, we can't miss our opportunity to get his opinion on the Dolphins. Thanks to Jonathan, the dive bars in here, Kosa, Finn, Sammy, everybody. We appreciate you guys watching. All right, Jason, go ahead.
So with this, as George alluded to, and we've all kind of seen this transfer of culture, hopefully this shift in identity. Another thing that I think we could all see is the leadership of the kids that they're bringing in, whether they were captains, whether they are just natural locker room type leaders. Dolphins also lost a lot of captains the last year and even 2 years, Big E. Who are you looking for as captains? I mean, if you have 4 or 5 names, obviously Sealer, but outside of Zach, who are you looking for to get that C on the chest this year, or maybe even in the next year or so?
I still do expect that Tua is going to be a captain. I think in most teams you see that quarterback as a captain on the team. And I know last year was a tough year, but you look at the season before and he was in the top of the league for a lot of different metrics. And he was being the player that we expected him to be when he came out of college. And I think that he speaks a certain way, speaks a certain, inflection that gets the attention of everybody else. So I think he needs to be your leader on offense, right? First and foremost. I think Alec Ingold could be another one as well, because I feel like he's a very inspiring and motivating human in general. And I think he puts that onto the football field as well, even though I know his role is not that significant, right? On the defensive side, it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be interesting to see because you've got a lot of new guys that are coming in, but how fast can Kenneth come in and make an impact? And what is his personality like? Is he one of those guys that, if you remember Cam Wake was a monster on the field, but he was quiet in the locker room. He wasn't one of those guys that really tried to get everybody else up. He did his thing because he knew what he was doing, but
led by his field production.
Exactly. But Zach Thomas, he was a leader both on and off the field. So you want to try and find that. I don't know who that's going to be. I think they're going to need to figure that out themselves at this point. I don't want to pinpoint one person because I think it's going to grow over the preseason. Now that you have Teron Armstead's no longer there, right? Now that you're going to see Jalen Ramsey, even though I don't know if Jalen Ramsey was necessarily a leader, he felt like he was kind of a lone wolf a lot of times also.
Right.
So it's going to be different, but it's a change. It's definitely a change of culture. And I would be very happy if we don't hear about players being late to meetings this season, because that is a function of bad leadership. Unfortunately, if you allow that to go on, I heard someone who's like, yeah, well, if you're making $20 million a year and you're getting fined $50,000 for being late to a meeting, is it really sending a message to you? Right? Is that really going to make you change your behavior? So it's got to come from the team. I like what Jonathan said in the chat too. I see it there. Johnny Smith needs to be a captain. I think, he's one who's like Zach Sealer. I think a lot of people didn't expect a lot of big things with him. But Zach became a top producer. He got paid for that. I saw 20 sacks over the last 2 seasons from Zach. And he now can talk the talk, right? Because he's already shown that he can walk the walk. So, it's going to be interesting to see who these captains are, and they're voted on by the team. So we'll see what the team decides.
And I also think some of these guys, there was a theme in this draft, a lot of high football character, a lot of captains, if you hear these guys speak, they just sound like guys who could be eventual. I think some of the future leaders may have come in this draft class, Ian and Jason. I kind of get that vibe with this draft class. They clearly had a plan, right? So
the fun thing is, I will talk about it, but yeah, I mean, a guy like a Jason Marshall, 2 things that I kind of connect. Greer said that this is a deep cornerback class. We like guys later. And you know what? This is a Florida kid who is a 4-year starter, a team captain. And you almost think he might be cooking on this one here, because the Dolphins are really good at finding those day 3 or undrafted defensive backs, corners specifically. So I'm kind of putting my high hopes on him.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ian.
No, I was just going to say, let's not forget about Jalen Phillips. And I know people tend to forget about him because he's been, 2 seasons in a row, he's gotten the injuries. But if he doesn't inspire you to do great things on that football field, the way that he gets injured, fights to come back, ends up being a contributor, I don't know if there anything else will. And also, talk about great speakers. He is such a great speaker, and I feel like he's a motivating speaker, especially with the challenges and the things that he's had happen. So it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up being being one of the captains on the defensive side.
Good call there, and hopefully he gets back to his normal self.
My final Dolphin question for you is: everybody talks about the O-line, Tua's injuries. Do you think they've done enough to improve the offensive line and kind of protect Tua? I mean, Tua's got to protect himself from himself, but do you think they've done enough upgrades? I mean, every year we're going into this in the offseason, O-line with James Daniels and Savaiinaea, but then you got Patrick Paul left tackle. How do you feel going into the season?
I think it's kind of one of those to be determined.
Yep.
And the reason why I say that is we have a lot of youth when it comes to the offensive line right now, with Patrick Paul at the left taking over for Tehran. And then you got Jonah, who just got drafted. And as you mentioned, James Daniels, right, who is coming off a pretty severe injury, but he had such an amazing upside before he got injured. If he comes back to 90% of what he was doing, he's still going to be better than what we had in the past. Austin Jackson again, and then Aaron Brewer at the center. So I think these guys can be really, really good if they stay healthy. And that's going to be the big question mark.
Yeah, I agreed. All right, so now let's get, it was fun. We were talking Dolphins, but let's get to the reason why we really wanted to have you on. It's been well documented, your health journey and what you've been going through. But I really want you to explain to people kind of where this started and kind of take us to the process, Ian, where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you guys having me on to talk about this. It was last April, actually, a little over a year ago now, that I was trying to lose weight because my family and I were going on a cruise, and so I wanted to lose some weight so I can eat a little extra on the cruise. And then I started getting really nauseous before I was eating. It was just really like that, and some other symptoms started coming up as well. Didn't think too much of it. I thought it may have been like, maybe like acid reflux or something like that. So I started taking like some over-the-counter stuff. Didn't make a difference. Then I had my annual test with my doctor in June, and he told me that my blood test results for the liver, specifically the liver enzymes within my blood, were way off the charts. And I said, okay, what does that mean? What do I do? And he thought it was one thing. He thought it was fatty liver, which some people have heard of before. It's something that's correctable if you go on a diet. And I said, well, I've already lost 25 pounds. He's like, well, you need to then go see some GIs, gastrointestinal doctors. So went and saw 2 doctors in Boca. They did some tests. I went through my first ever endoscopy, and they're like, we don't know what it is. Sorry, man. And I was like, okay. So then they referred me down to the University of Miami. I spoke to the first doctor who'd been around for like 30 some odd years, and told him everything. He asked me if I'd been out of the country, which I hadn't. He asked me if I was a drinker. I have never been. If I drink more than 1 drink per month, then that's excessive. And he said, this is a puzzle that I just don't know the answers to. They did some more testing. They did a biopsy of the liver, which is where they take a little chunk out, which was painful, but that's another story. And they sent it off to University of Chicago. And that's when they started thinking it may be either primary biliary cholangitis or primary sclerosing cholangitis. And I had to be hospitalized around that time. It was September, October. And I met this other doctor who was a PSC specialist. And she said, you got PSC based on these blood results, based on your symptoms. And PSC, unfortunately, is one of the only liver autoimmune disorders that there's not any sort of cure. So she said, here's what your options are, and here's some things that you can do. Don't mind my dog barking in the background.
Okay.
She's really excited about this conversation.
I'm used to it with Jason.
But anyway, so fast forward, a couple months, I've had to go to the hospital a couple of times, total of 6 times, spent over 40 days in the hospital. University of Miami, I'm going to continue to give love to them, to the doctors and nurses down there every opportunity I have, because they've gotten to the point now where when they see me, they're like, it's great to see you, but we're not happy to see you, because they're just such good people, and they give such good care and service to all their patients. And but one of my hospital stays, the doctor came in and she said, what's going on with you right now is not going to get better. It's going to get worse. And, you know, at some point they had to put some tubes within my livers in order to get some of the bile actually get out of my livers, because it wasn't working. It wasn't flowing as it should. And at the same time, the doctor said, you're going to probably need to start thinking about a liver transplant. And I said, okay. And then things just progressed extremely, extremely fast. And I ended up back in the hospital again. It was end of December. Then also at the end of January, they had to remove my gallbladder. They had to do some other things that they found. And that's when they said, you should look for a live living donor, because if you keep going the path you're going, you're going to end up getting sicker and sicker. And we can get you a deceased donor, you know, because some people put on their licenses, they'll be a donor when they die. But they said, you have to almost be on your deathbed to be able to get high on that list to get yourself a deceased donor. And I said, okay, well, thanks for that. You know, and they said, and University of Pennsylvania is one of the best hospitals in the country that conduct live liver transplants. So I went up there, met with them, gave them about 30 some odd vials of blood so they can test me for everything. Then I interviewed with doctors, you know, that work on the transplant specifically up there. And then 2 weeks ago, actually early last week is when I got the message, the phone call that they said that I was approved for a live living donor, which is a huge, huge step to be able to do that. Cause that means you're sick, because that's why you're getting a transplant, but you're not too sick that you cannot get a donor, right? And you can't get a donation or a transplant. So that's where we are. And I've been trying to spread the journey. You know, I was kind of fighting internally if I wanted to share any of this when I first started, but I thought it was important for people to know. And I'm really glad that I have, because, you know, the support that I've gotten from everybody on social media, Twitter, Facebook, through all the podcasts has just been unbelievable. And the number of people who have applied has just blown my mind. So I've just been really fortunate with the support. And now I'm just waiting to see if there's any matches. That's the big thing. There's 3 phases that you have to go through. First phase is you fill out the survey, the questionnaire, and it's through nkr.org, which I know you've got on the screen here. Thank you so much. The BHP 638 tells my story, and then also allows you to input your information, which, by the way, I don't see any medical information on anybody. I actually don't see anybody's name that gets submitted on there either. But then if it's a good match, if everything, you're healthy, you're within a certain weight range, then they say, go give blood. And you can go give blood locally. Like if you're in Florida, you could give it in Florida. If you're Wisconsin, you can give it in Wisconsin. And then they look at the blood and say, all right, it's a blood match. It's, you know, this, that, and the other thing. And then they say the next phase is we're going to have you come to Pennsylvania, and we're going to have you do either a CT scan or an ultrasound. And we're going to see if the size of the liver is appropriate. Because for me to get a transplant, the size of the liver has to be 80% of my size. And the good thing is, which a lot of people don't know, although I think I've said it probably 20 times in the last like 3 weeks, if you are deciding that you want to help and you want to be a donor, you're not giving up your full liver, because you need to live with your liver. You give a piece of your liver. Once that piece is removed from you, actually grows back in your body to the full size that it was before. And then when I receive the liver, it also grows to the full size in my body. It's one of the only organs in the human body that actually regrows back. So I'm just waiting now at this point for that call that someone has matched. I will tell you, I had a young lady that my wife has been in contact with, because I don't call people. I don't want there to be any pressure for me whatsoever for anybody to do this. If they want to do it, it's because they want to do it. And this woman had known my wife since high school. And she said, I want to donate. I want to help. She went in, she got to the last phase where they did the CT scan or the ultrasound, but it wasn't the right size. She was at 60% of the size. It has to be at least 80% of the size in order for me to get it. But what I found out today was that she's actually going to help another person. There's 200 other people who need transplants that are in a similar situation as me. And they don't have anyone applying. You know, they don't have anybody looking at the website. So she's going to help one of those people as long as it's a match, which I thought was just incredible. Because, you know, my situation is going to help other people that are in a similar situation get their transplants, then I'm happy about that.
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing too. Like maybe some people want to help, Ian, and they just don't understand the process. And you explaining it, like you don't need the whole liver; it's only a part of it. It grows, but all these things I know I didn't know about. You probably didn't know about.
I had no idea about
Yeah,
livers. Why would I? We
yeah,
never thought,
yeah.
you never think about it.
Now you probably feel like you're an expert on it, right? But yeah, but another thing is, I heard you say you want to be an advocate once this all gets by. You want to be for people in your same situation. Talk about that. Talk about how important it is. This website we got down here. How important it is to share this, get many eyes on this as possible. Just talk about how important that is.
Well, and first things first, and I had this hepatologist down in Miami that I think so highly of. She has her name is Dr. Levy. I'll actually state her name because she's unbelievable. She goes to all the PSC conferences in the country, and she actually writes reports and writes stuff about it. She said to me the last time I saw her, she said, I have this person who's been waiting for 2 years for a transplant. She's like, if you can help her, then that would be so amazing, because she doesn't have the social media presence that I have. She doesn't have the support of people that I have, and I don't know why I have as many people that are willing to help, but I'm going to try and use my platform to help these other people that need it, that maybe don't have that voice. And I did tell Dr. Levy, I said, let me get mine. Let me get this off my mind. Let me get back to living, and I will be an advocate for you to be able to help other people find their liver donations. Right. So that's that. And then the site down below is very important because, again, it tells my story from nuts to bolts. It gives some information about why it's important, why I need it. And it also talks a little bit about my family, who's just been a rock. They've been rocks through this entire process. My wife stays with me 38 out of 40 nights at the hospital. And the only reason why she wasn't there the other 2 nights is I kicked her out and I said, you need to go home. You need a shower. You need to lay in your own bed. You need to get yourself. And then my kids are just unbelievable too. I've got a junior in high school, and, a junior in high school shouldn't have to be seeing her dad, in the hospital so often. So, but everything's on that site. Everything's on that site, as you see on the screen.
We'll have that in the description box on the YouTube. I already put it in there. Please, guys, go check this site out. Now, I want to say this personally, and this is our first time talking, but I followed this situation, and we talk about toughness on the field. We talk about the Dolphins. If some of these players had what you have to go through this, because I like I told you backstage, if it was me, I couldn't handle it like you've handled it. Your positivity is inspiring. Okay, what you've done not only before, like in the community with the Dolphins Cancer Challenge, you raised over $90,000. Your nonprofits stuff you've done with Habitat for Humanity. The list goes on. All those good deeds and the way you've kind of brought this community together. You are the Miami Dolphin fan base, and I think we need to come together and give back the good to you. And I'm confident Ian, it's going to happen, and you're going to get your match soon. You're going to get a normal life with your beautiful family, your wife, your 2 daughters. Ian, my prayers are with you every night, and I'm confident in this. You have a home here. Whenever you want to come back on and talk about it, every show if you want, you have a seat here. It's been an honor to have you on, and I'm praying for you, brother, and it's going to happen. I'm confident, man.
Thank you. And I just want to remind everybody too, like, helping is not necessarily applying, because I know that it's hard. You're talking about having to be in Pennsylvania for 4 weeks. That's how long the rehab takes once the donor is completed with their surgery. And you're talking about being away from wherever your home is for a couple of weeks, unless you live in Pennsylvania. It's very close. But really the biggest thing is to share, because eventually it's going to get into some eyes of some people who say, I may not know Big E, but I want to be able to help another human. And this might be my opportunity to do it. So the more times we share, the more times it's going to be seen, and the likelihood that somebody may say, I might be able to help this guy. Again, the perfect example with my wife's friend. Like, I have never met my wife's friend. They've stayed friends on Facebook for the last 30 years since they've gone to high school. And she saw it and she said, I have a higher calling to help somebody. And that's the reason why I want to help Ian. And now it will be, I want to help somebody else. So.
Yeah. Thank you again, Jason. I know you probably want to say some parting words here to Ian, but from my part, I just want to know it's been a pleasure and honor to help you, and I'll continue to do it. And like I said, the good will come back to you, brother.
Ian, I love you, brother. I've known you for like 6 years. I call you a beacon. I've called you a beacon well, number one, you're 6'40", you're huge, but I love seeing you every time I would go down there, and every time I see you there, I wait in line. I'm not even kidding. I wait in line because I know that everyone loves to say hello and to thank you for what you have done, whether it's retweeting, spreading a message, saying, hey, I like this person's podcast. I'm going to jump on this person's podcast. You're a terrific human. You're an excellent Dolphins fan. And I just want you to get better as soon as possible and get back to Hard Rock and 100%.
Me too, Jason. I love you, brother. Thank you. Thank you for that also. Thank you so much.
Sounds good, man. I can't wait till we all meet up. You're ready to go. We can have some fun times at Hard Rock Stadium. Ian, thank you so much, man. If you ever need anything, let us know. We're here to help. Thanks so much for joining us, giving us time this evening.
Fins up, gentlemen. Have a good night. Thank you.
Love you. Feel good.
Same. All right. Wow.
Yeah.
It's hard now to talk football. I'll be honest with you. I was getting a little emotional there listening to talk about his family and all that. But the message I'll say, is that, boy, if the Dolphins had this guy's toughness, what he's going through. I mean, you've seen it in social media, Jason. He's positive, nonstop.
Yeah.
All messages positive. He's not complaining about anything, and all the good things he's done. That's who he is, right? And it'd be good to see it come back to him, Jason. Like, man, I'm hoping to see him sooner rather than later back at the stadium and healthy and ready to go.
1,000%. And just, his positivity, his outlook, I wish I had a fraction of it, frankly.
Yes.
He's the last person on earth that should deal with this.
It can happen to any of us, Jason.
Right.
That's the thing.
We all have our things, our stuff, but this is not someone who deserves any remote shape or form of this. But with him having the community, and this community, to our credit, has really stepped up for situations, for people, for causes, and let us all continue to help. There is no, stop until there is a goal, so we got to keep on going and hit this goal for Ian. Someone's out there. We got to help find it. And we will see him rallying the troops again, full strength.
Absolutely. We're not going to stop till there's a positive resolution. I'm confident he'll find the match. And if anybody, again, the website, you heard Ian say how important it is. The website is in our description. The link is in our description in the YouTube box. And if you don't find it, message me. I'll send it to you. Guys, please, even if you can't help, share it to somebody who can help. He's in need of our help, and there's nobody in this community that deserves it more than Ian Berger, aka Piggy. What a pleasure to have him on. It was fantastic.
For sure, man.
Now we got to transition into some draft talk, right? It's tough, but follow us here, guys. I mean, this is what Ian loves, the Dolphins. So he would want us to keep talking about this after he left the show. So, all right. Let's start with the first two picks. Let's bring out one of my graphics I like to make. I know you like the graphic when you saw it.
Dude, your graphic, you're superior in the graphics than most.
Let's start off with the first two guys. Here, when I had some time to reflect on this draft class, a couple things stood out. Like I said, the message that they want to deliver, but also after hearing the guys speak through this whole draft class, even the guys in day 3. They were leaders. They were guys who love football. They see a void in the locker room. This team needs leadership. And Jason, don't be surprised if it comes from some of these young guys early on, right?
I mean, look, you don't necessarily need to have the C on your jersey to be a leader. I mean, it's also going back to what Big E mentioned with Cameron Wake. It's also leading by example on the field. There's different forms of leadership. There's the rah-rah leadership. There's the grab a face mask and get in someone's face type of leadership. Or there's this, tell me when I didn't do my job. Do your job. I'm here to do my job. Do your job. Let's go. And hopefully one or both of these guys does their job, shows that by that example, but it would be nice to see one of these guys as a team leader and actually given that role. So both of them look like they could be. They're fine candidates for it outside of their physical attributes.
Yeah, I'm going back. So I looked at some more. I went back when I did. I looked at some more film on each of these guys, and Kenneth Grant, my opinion was basically the same. I watched a ton of Kenneth Grant, and early on in the process, particularly these two guys, I was a fan of. So were you. These are guys we identified early on in the process, and I can't tell you how many mock drafts I had doing. I remember. You remember those mock drafts?
1, 2.
Yeah.
Kenneth Grant, Jonah.
It was like in those. It was like
boom.
pick 28. He's still there. I'm like, dude, let's go Kenneth Grant.
Boom.
There's no way. And then Jonah. So the thing about Grant, what I've been so eager to get one of these guys, whether it was Dexter Lawrence, Vita Vea, all the Trevonde Sweat last year, these big nose tackles who are not just nose. I know people are, we drafted him too high. Let me tell you something. There was teams I know for certain Arizona was interested in him at 16. I know his floor would have the lowest he would have gone is 22 to the Chargers. They were after him. I had him, my board, everybody talked about it. I had him as a 14th ranked player. He went number 13. You got him where you exactly the spot. This is where his home was, starting around 13. And if you like a guy, you go get him. His ability, I watched Mason Graham, who went number 5 overall, and all I watched was Kenneth Grant getting the double teams, allowing Mason Graham to eat. Why were they double teaming Kenneth Grant? Because he was a tougher guy to block. You don't double team just to double team, right? So imagine what he could do and free up Sealer. And where the question becomes, right? And people say, he doesn't have the pass rush. You see flashes of the pass rush. And if that hits, you're looking at a ceiling of a Dexter Lawrence. If that hits, I believe in the pass rush. I don't know how good of a pass rusher will be, but I think people are downplaying like he's only a 2-down player. He could be a 2-down player, starter early on, but I see the flashes of pass rush here with Kenneth Grant, Jason.
Absolutely flashes. And again, this is not he has 2.5 sacks. It's week 9. He's a bust. No. Don't think that way. It's freeing up a Sealer. It's freeing up the guys on the edge. It's also creating pressure. Let's see how many pressures he helps himself solely and the unit create. This way, you never know. You could rush a quarterback into an air pass, and this way, cornerbacks' lives can be easier with gifted picks. Can he get his hands up and get his hands on the pass like an Agba used to do, or Calais Campbell was good at, especially if he can get on, consistently on third downs. A sack is great, but also making sure that he gets the 4th down. That's the job, whether it's a pressure, a batted ball at the line of scrimmage, something like that. But Kenneth Grant is going to be a very good player. And dare I say, adding another 10 sack season for Zach Sealer to make it potentially 3 in a row for an interior defensive lineman. This is the guy you want to give a little bit of room for Zach to work. And then when they want to double team Zach, this is where Kenneth Grant's sack numbers may move up. So this is fantastic. And sidebar on Zach Sealer, the ship has sailed on calling him underrated. Oh, no. Stop calling him underrated.
He's one of the guys now in the league.
He's this. I'll tolerate disrespected because he wasn't made to a Pro Bowl yet. But don't say underrated. Everyone knows how good he is. It's just now he has to just get the respect for it.
Yeah, shout out to we have over 415 people watching us. Guys, if you're watching on X or anywhere else, come on over to YouTube. Please, guys, hit that like button, subscribe. It really helps support the channel. Just take a second and jump on over to YouTube and check us out. We appreciate everybody in the chat. Jonathan, big Longhorns fan. He always shout out to Big E. William Cook, shout out to Big E. Thank you. Daniel, his prayers are for Ian and also 99 and Jonathan with his Grant Sealer Chubb. You boys are going to feast. I can't wait to see Josh Allen try to run on us. Yeah, the thing with Grant, we'll wrap up at Grant, I guess. I mean, we talked a ton about him, but is his first steps explosive? He's a little bit of a linear player, but I mean, that's okay. He gets his hands on everything, and he's going to eat up blockers in the NFL for Sealer. So this is a tone setter. These first two picks sent a message that, hey, we're gonna try to get rid of that soft label, right? And we'll talk about here. It's a good transition to Jonah because everybody's going to talk about the trade up. And I think it'll be good for us when we get to the 4th or 5th round. I'm going to go over some guys that maybe were taken at 116 that maybe we could have instead of getting a 3rd next year, maybe using a 3rd and kind of moving back up. We're going to take a look at some of those players that were available. But going into Jonah, they didn't like the trade up, right? A lot of people didn't. We gave up pick 98. We gave up this. We gave up that. Well, it comes out that New England Patriots were going to take him to pick after us. And even forgetting about all that, again, a 39 rated player on my board. So very close. These two guys were very close. And this is not just me patting myself on the back. This is me telling you I think they went where they should have went. So everybody thinking he wasn't going to be available at 48. That wasn't going to happen. He was the last guard, Jason, that they thought who brings the athleticism, the physicality, who you don't project inside. I think the other guy, I know we talk about Tate Ratledge, but Tate Ratledge is light, right? He's more a long, linear, light guy, an athletic guy. I think the other guy was Dante, who I think actually went, Jason, where the Dolphins' old pick was at 48, would have been the other guy I think they would have liked with the size, the athleticism, the power. But you would have to project him. Savaiinaea, you don't. He's played 1,000 starts, over 1,000 snaps at right tackle, almost 1,000 at guard, 350 at left tackle. So you've seen him at guard. And man, watching him again, his hand strength, his ability to redirect defenders. On the second level, Jason, he doesn't miss. He lays asses out. Excuse my language. And I think that's what they wanted with the proven a guy they know could play right guard. And he's a day one starter. Love this pick. Not worried about trading up. And honestly, I didn't love what was on the board at 98.
They traded up to get a guy who they loved. This is right after they picked at 13 to get a guy that they loved. And look, agents are hearing things throughout the process. They're calling teams. Yeah, I don't think he's getting past 38. I don't think he's getting past 41. Whatever the situation may be, that could be the case. So if they have to go up and get a guy who they think could be an instant starter, as they believe Jonah can be, then it's a fine move. And you know what? There is a fine line between getting a top 40 or a top 37 player, the best remaining interior who can move to the next level, or settling for a guy who, he may not beat Liam out. He may not be a starter. Maybe we're not going to address this position just yet. They had a plan. They fixed the interior on both sides of the ball. So I can't be upset with the trade. I could be a little disappointed that they got out of the third. And we'll talk about the next trade. But am I disappointed in the two players that they got? Absolutely not. I think these are fantastic building blocks.
Yeah, and I agree with you. The trade when I went and I kind of did an exercise. Okay, what was available at 48? What was available at 98? 48 would have been. I think Tate Ratledge is the guy you're going to compare it to. I like Savaiinaea more. He's over. He's over 330 pounds. They needed a physical presence, and again a proven guy. It was a theme. You had to get the meat here. You just look at these two guys on the screen. They had an idea what they were doing. I like Tate Ratledge, but he's not built like Jonah Savaiinaea.
For example on that, right? Yeah. And like Tate Ratledge was able to be had in mock drafts around the third or in the 60s. Yes. Jonah was gone. If the Dolphins didn't take him in your mock draft at 48, he was gone at 53, like latest. Like this was the trade up, and it was the right guy. If they trade up to draft a Wyatt Milam, no. Not the right way to go.
That's trading up for Liam Eichenberg.
That's absolutely correct. The guy who could do it all, but not
Didn't they comp?
Kyle Krantz comped him as that. Yeah, shout out to Kyle on one of his reports. He comped Wyatt to Liam. And that got me. All right,
if we would have traded up for Wyatt Milam, and I like Wyatt. I actually do like Wyatt. I think he's better than Eichenberg.
I do too. I obviously. But this was a much better trade up for a much better player than Liam Eichenberg with the 2021 trade.
Jonathan has a question. Do we like Jonah over Booker? Booker was unrealistic. He wasn't falling out of the first round. If Booker was there at 38 and you wanted to go up and get him, I'd be fine with that too. I wasn't buying into the whole Tyler Booker couldn't play in this scheme. I also think that there could be a little bit of change of philosophy here into more of some power scheme, power gap stuff, maybe a little bit less outside zone. Maybe let me look at the person. We'll talk about a certain running back that we drafted. But yeah, love it. One thing about Jonah is he's got long arms too. For when you move him inside a guard, and I'm telling you, Jason, when you watch the tape, he gets his hands on guys. It's some of the strongest hands I think of any offensive lineman in this class. So I'm excited about the message with these two picks. We separate the draft into two parts. I give this part an A.
Yep. I mean, devil's advocate, I gave him an A- on each pick just because of, all right, maybe you would have reached a little bit and you got the A- for the next pick because you traded up and you actually lost the pick. But I'm not letter grading it the A letter grade here. Both those guys, fantastic.
All right, let's move on to the next group. Okay, so we know the trade. We lost 98 because we moved up in the second round to get Savaiinaea from 48 to 37. Then at pick 116 was our next scheduled pick. And here's the one everybody is kind of upset about. They went from 116 to 140. No, they traded 150. They already had 143. They took that and they got a third next year.
And they also got a 6th rounder.
Yes. And they had a
remember who that is.
Yeah, they had a 6th round pick. I'm glad you brought that up. They had a little they had a little gap there.
We'll get to him.
Yes. Some of the players they passed up at 116. I know your guy, Billy Bowman Jr. That was our guy. We loved him. He was the guy. Gunnar Helm, I thought the tight end was good. I thought Lathan Ransom at 122. Jalen Rose at 133 was the guy I had. Those are some of the picks, particularly for me. I think Billy Bowman Jr. would have been the guy I would have took at 116.
You know, it's funny because I was everyone who was watching during the live, I was safety. Let's go safety here at this pick before we traded out. And then, of course, you see Bowman, you see Ransom. I liked those two very much. We'll talk about the safety that the Dolphins select just a little later. But to get back to the pick at 143, Jordan Phillips, I think, and I mocked him in a draft in the 5th round a couple of weeks back. He's perfect. For a 5th rounder, he's absolutely perfect for your second defensive lineman in the draft, a guy who can play multiple techniques. And I think that he is a disruptor. Another guy who you might not necessarily see sack production, but he's athletic. He's 20 years old. You can mold this guy. So I love this Phillips pick.
You know what they do is they took a lot of young players in a draft that was loaded because it was the last COVID kind of draft, loaded with 24, 25-year-old guys. They took a lot of young players. He was the second youngest player in the draft. All right, when I went back, he looks the part. He's not tall. He's about 6'1", 312. Doesn't have the longest arms, but is like a force of muscle and energy on. He plays with unbelievable leverage, gets low. You see the strength. He was a high school wrestler.
Yep.
He was a weight room warrior who's on Bruce Feldman's freak list, and you see that immediately when you watch him. There's some technique stuff. There's stuff he's got to clean up, right? He's still young. The pass rush still needs to develop. There's not much there right now. But, boy, at 20 years old, I hate to see what this guy looks like at 26, 24, 23. I think this guy's going to be an athletic starting nose in the NFL. I think this year, I think this year he'll probably get some
rotational.
Run. Maybe he'll get some Deshaun Hand minute
rotational.
Snaps.
I mean, look, you're asking a 5th round rookie to get.
I can see a Deshaun Hand roll here.
Get into the back end of the rotation of these linemen, how Weaver likes to use them, whether it's at the nose, whether it might be on the outside a little bit. With Grant Phillips joining this team with the Benito Jones, you now have a couple of guys who could rotate in and out of that nose, keep, people fresh. I like this pick a lot.
The thing with him is you see like the wrestling background, how he gets so explosive and low in his leverage. You see the wrestling background when you watch him. I think this guy's a ton of upside. We got to talk. 143, a certain player went next. I know we're in a fan of, but we got to address the elephant in the room, Shedeur Sanders. I know. I already know where you stand on this, but we got to talk about it.
Sure.
On surface, Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round would have been excellent, right? Don't make a mistake about it. We chose Quinn Ewers in the 7th round over taking somebody like Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round. Now, I thought Shedeur Sanders was probably a 2nd round quarterback. If you would have took him in the late 1st and 2nd round, I thought they get overdrafted. So your rankings get overdone. I didn't see him as a 1st round player. I saw one 1st round quarterback. Now, he is not a 5th round talent. However, there's a lot of things that went with him, the entourage, the baggage, all that stuff. But I think what we're not talking about now is I think teams, football-wise, didn't have him as high as everybody thought we would. He fell, but a lot of it also was football-related. Doesn't have a big arm, not physically imposing or athletic, holds on to the ball way too long. There's stuff with timing anticipation. Don't get me wrong. He would fit this system. but I don't know if it was the right culture in the right locker room for us to bring him in right now with everything we got going on with Tua. But on surface, I get the argument. I do get the argument. People say, look, as a fifth-round pick, you can't do much worse than Shedeur Sanders as a developmental quarterback. Because he has starter potential, I think.
I got maybe a little roasted for it when I said I still would have taken McCord over Shedeur Sanders if anybody. I still stick to that. I think Kyle McCord is going to be a better
guy,
pro.
Yeah.
But even Quinn Ewers is kind of like a lottery ticket pick in the 7th round for the Dolphins. But if the Dolphins really valued Shedeur, they obviously clearly would have picked him at 143. And if they wanted to invest that highly in a quarterback, they wouldn't have probably traded out. They would have been more aggressive in day 1 or 2, or they would have used one of their other fifths on a quarterback. They clearly did not see that was their way to go, because if you have Shedeur as a 2nd or 3rd round graded quarterback, why are you trading out? Why are you not selecting him at 143? That would tell me that they don't grade him necessarily even that high, or they just don't have him as a particular fit for their system for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I just didn't think that it would mesh well, the whole scenario. So I'm glad that he ended up getting drafted by the Browns. He could hopefully use it as motivation to get on the field and stay there, but that would be great. Good for him. But I just never saw it as a fit, never really wanted the distraction. And sometimes you have happy passes, not throwing, saying goodbye to a player. And I'm fine with this one. I was never upset with it.
Yeah. And I would have thought long and hard about it, but it's pretty clear that they had this Quinn Ewers thing in their back pocket. This is the guy they wanted to get in the last round.
Yes.
They said we'd rather have Quinn Ewers in the 7th than Shedeur Sanders in the 5th.
And they'll pay a 7th round price for a developmental arm talent quarterback when they already have a franchise one. That was maybe their mindset.
All right, so then we pick at 150 here. Jason Marshall Jr. The thing about Jason Marshall Jr. is you look at him, he looks like an NFL corner. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. He plays for the Gators. My niece goes to UF, so I kind of give me a scouting report on Jason Marshall Jr. She had no idea who he was. But no, when you watch him, what I like about him, 39 starts, played against top SEC receivers. He's long. He's a press corner. He's a guy he's good. He has really good feet, really good fluid, hips for a corner. But he's not a finisher, right? He has a lot of pass breakups. He doesn't finish. He has horrible hands. But some of the tape is good, but he's very, very inconsistent, Jason. And he relies a lot on his tools. Like, he's a Miami, Florida kid. When you get in the NFL, I think the key for Jason Marshall Jr. is, and there's some effort stuff on tape too. He doesn't like to come up and tackle. I look back. I went and watched a whole couple games of his. Doesn't do much in tackling. And he relies a lot on the athletic gifts he has. I think where his success is going to be based on how hard does he work here. And I can't rely on my tools. Every guy is good in the NFL. There's some starting corner ability physically, and there's some good stuff on tape. He's got SEC experience.
I mean, look, he's got, like you said, a lot of experience. He's also a leader. He's a captain. I like this kid, as I alluded to earlier. Marshall is someone who could be a cornerback 1, cornerback 2 in time. He's developed his game as Jalen Ramsey. He's looked up to him as a kind of someone to emulate on the field. You mentioned it though. Bad hands, not going to necessarily intercept passes. And you have 25 pass breakups, but 1 or 2, I think 2 interceptions. That ratio is exactly right. It translates to bad hands, but that's not a knock as much as it is an opportunity to improve. You already have the coverage ability to get physical and punch a ball out, break up a pass. But now let's translate those into actually solidifying the hand, get in front of the jugs machine, get a little bit more work, turning those pass breakups into turnovers. Because when you look at some of these defensive guys that they're drafting, you got to start to wonder where some more turnovers coming from, because last year, not that terrific in the turnover creation department. Only ranked, I think, 22nd in the league in interceptions or total turnovers. But Marshall is a kid who is a good developmental potential starter, potential leader for a football team.
Yeah. He's definitely a guy I think that they had targeted. I mean, I was looking, he had for his career, he allowed 68 catches. I think it was like for 100 what was it, 68 catches on 143 targets for like 1,200 career snaps. So he's got some start and stop ability. You see it. Like he can cover. He covers some of the top SEC receivers. He can mirror these guys.
No, he goes up against the top guy.
He's inconsistent. And the effort sometimes is not there. It's how bad does he want it, right? I think if this guy, look, let's be honest. No matter if we sign Rasul Douglas, there's a competition in this DB room, right?
Oh,
there's a spot to be had to play early in the cornerback room for the Miami Dolphins.
Two, in my mind.
Right? We haven't signed anybody yet.
Right.
Shout out to the 500 people we have watching. We appreciate it, guys. If you're watching anywhere else, come on over to YouTube. I know it's a pain. We got to keep asking, but it helps support the channel, Jason and I. And there's a little bell. That's a subscribe button, a little thumbs up if you help us out over here on YouTube. We appreciate that. All right. I think we're good with those guys. Let's move on to by the way, a local kid. Miami, Florida, Miami Palmetto
South
kid.
Florida,
So that's cool.
Tri-sport athlete. I mean,
yeah. Right,
he's going to have a following.
So we talked about turnovers, right? This kid, Dante Trader Jr. I was having I'll name drop. I was having a chat with Bobby Schaus Jr. from the Dive Bar podcast, and I had mentioned to him on the draft show. I said, Bobby, when you go back and look at this kid, you're gonna love him. He's like, George, I went back and look. I thought you were right. I love this kid. What are your thoughts on Dante Trader Jr.? I'll let you start off here.
Versatile. Love his multi-sport background with the lacrosse experience. Maryland is a great school in that regard. So they're getting a really interesting, kind of a piece of clay to kind of mold and work to where they think he's going to best suit, in that secondary, but he can play up in the nickel. He can play deep. That versatility is huge. He can hit. Very smart kid. Very, very, very smart kid. And I think he could instantaneously help on special teams. So, yeah, they passed on safeties that we all loved the name, but the Dolphins valued Dante Trader Jr., and I like potential. That's the number one word with him is potential.
Yeah, the thing about him is he's going to be an interesting case. The tape is second round. The testing is undrafted free agent. So,
but it's not like he's not athletic.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm getting to.
It's weird.
So it's kind of met in the middle, fifth round,
right.
Second round tape, undrafted free agent, seventh round testing. So that's what happened because testing is important to some level because his RAS number was like 2 point something. It was like in 900 out of 1,100 DBs from 1987.
I'll tell you something. It's an interesting thing that our buddy Corey Chavis, who was on a couple of shows ago.
I would love to get Corey's. We got to have Corey on. Yeah,
100%. But in terms of what he told me about 40 times and, splits and whatever, that's great. But then how do these kids carry the speed and carry their pads with the speed? Is it horribly at detriment? Like, for example, like we were talking about, like a guy like a Malachi Starks, kid doesn't even look like he's wearing pads. Like his speed is not like cut. So the underwear Olympics or the 40-yard dash times at the pro days, fine. But look what he does on the tape. Look what he does in pads on the field. I definitely put that over the metrics and the measurables.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is, like, when you watch him on film, like, this guy, he comes up, he rarely misses a tackle. He's a great tackler. He is very quick. Like you said, the lacrosse background. He was not only a lacrosse player. And you mentioned, Jason, Maryland lacrosse is like, big deal, right? It's like Duke basketball, right?
It's very big deal. And another place where lacrosse is a big deal is Long Island. I'm from Long Island. I never played lacrosse, but I know how big of a deal it is. Long Island, Northeast, a school like Maryland is essentially like a basketball version of like Kentucky or Indiana, or North Carolina or Duke. Same idea.
Shout out to Bobby Schaus and Dive Bar Pod. I just mentioned you, Bobby, how much you went back and you love this guy after we talked, Dante Trader Jr. He could play, listen, leader, smart. In zone coverage, you see the football IQ. The feet are quick. You see the lacrosse stuff, the short area quickness, the change of direction. You see all that on film. His ability, he could play in the slot. He played 72 snaps in the slot, 281 in box, 209. He can play everywhere, right? And when you watch the film, you're like, wow, you don't see a guy. Now, you see the long speed's not there, right? That's going to be the issue. And again, he's a special teams guy. Does the tape translate? This is going to be a fun – we always talk about tape versus testing. This is going to be a fun one to keep track of.
Right.
But I can't get past how much I love the tape. I mean, he's something else, Jason.
I have high hopes for him.
He's like a slower Billy Bowman Jr. You know what I mean? Like even better tackler, but
sure,
a better tackler.
Better tackler than Latham Ransom on 100%. And like the special teams ability is what I was hoping for in a safety. So I'm very happy with this pick.
Yeah, he's so smart. He takes great angles.
Yes.
I mean, everything he does out there is just, you could see he's a step ahead of everybody. If he tested better, man, and maybe, listen, they drafted 2 Maryland guys. Maybe they have a connection in there. And they go, look, maybe he's a 4.55 guy. Maybe he had an injury or something, a hamstring. Maybe they know a little something more than we know.
He can cover sideline to sideline. I don't care about, the necessary speed on the clock as I do in between the hashes, in between the sidelines on the field. This kid could play 5th round safety. I don't know the Dolphins.
Rashad Jones?
I don't know.
Wasn't Jeremiah Bell like a 7th round safety? You remember Jeremiah Bell?
The Dolphins have
Sean Wooden
in the last couple of decades hit on some defensive backs.
We're dating ourselves a little bit with Sean Wooden, but
Sean Woody in the 90s, man. Jeez, Louise. That's Zach Thomas's draft class.
Yeah, that 96 class, Daryl Gardner.
Boy.
Hey, I was a huge Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Dorian Brew went right before him at 79. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at number 80. They were back-to-back picks.
The only 1,000-yard rusher Marino ever had.
Yeah, I was a huge Kareem Abdul-Jabbar fan. Okay, people are going to turn us off now. We're talking about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, not the basketball. Jeremiah Bell was one. Shout out to Jonathan. Shout out to everybody in the chat.
Shout out, Jonathan.
We appreciate it. All right, so now the guy who the 6th round pick we picked up in that trade back. Man, here's the thing. I warmed up to Ollie Gordon as the process went on because I couldn't get the Ollie Gordon 24 out of my head. Somebody told me, hey, just go back to the 23 tape. So I went back to the 23 tape. Doak Walker winner, broke through tackles, was decisive. I mean, if he would have came out in last year, the year before, he probably would have been a top 60 pick, right? He goes back this year. I know the offensive line wasn't as good, the quarterback play, but I didn't see him running through tackles like he did. I didn't see the vision. They didn't load the box on him all the time. I didn't see some of those things. So I'm left wondering, I'm willing to take the shot here in the 6th round, no doubt, because he fits exactly what we need. I'm looking at him as an early down back, short yardage, and man, if we get anything close to that 2023 back, we really got something.
I mean, I see a lot of different ways he could be utilized immediately. And, of course, let's see what happens with Devon Achane, exactly how many carries versus utilizing him as a receiver they want to do, what they do with Jalen Wright. But what Ollie Gordon can do, and what I hope that he does often, pick up that short yardage, as you mentioned. 3rd and inches, give it a Gordon. 4th and goal, give it a Gordon. Run forward. You got stronger with Jonah as a guard. Run behind, in between the gap, the center and the guard now with Gordon to go forward. He's a pile pusher. He moves it forward. He also can catch the ball out of the backfield. So, for example, if he is a 3rd down back on 3rd and 5 and Achane is at your slot position as a receiver, that's a capability. That's potential. Gordon has 80 catches out of the backfield in college. He runs smooth routes from a running back perspective, and he can absolutely pass protect.
Sonny already sticking to the run more than we hope. We hope that McDaniel follows you, Sonny.
Lusaka Polite, we mentioned him.
Oh,
Lusaka
Ian mentioned
Polite,
him. Yeah, shout out to Ian.
I want to go back to the day where we literally could say, hey, we're going to hand it to Lusaka. He's going to run this way. And they still do it, and they still pick up the 1st down. When Lusaka Polite was in, that's what they did. He never missed. I'm not saying Gordon is going to be Lusaka Polite, fullback versus running back, clearly different players. But, yes, you need to get that mindset. They did not have that last year, and it was not just because of the running back and not just because of McDaniel's play calling. It was a combination of things, but no identity up front to push the line ahead. When this team has succeeded, really, they've had some physicality from the running back and the offensive line in tandem. Look at the teams. Look.
Yeah, he's
okay. Yeah. Elwood, from your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah,
please.
right.
My Lord.
Look, I think he's a perfect compliment. They're what we talked about when we did the process. It's funny when you do the mock draft. Actually, I suggest everybody do it because it kind of gives you an idea, and especially to stick to the model. Shout out to those guys. At the end, we kind of discovered that process was really, really more realistic than any other one. the thing with Gordon, he's a perfect compliment. It was him or Damian Martinez, right? Where there was not much of those power.
Yeah,
that was
100%.
it. I was pretty confident we're going to get one of those guys. I knew you were too.
Those are the two guys.
Yeah,
maybe a sprinkle of another late, like
yes,
kid from Rutgers style kind of guy.
When we were doing the mocks, we were debating. Usually Gordon would go first, right? And then Martinez would be the one. Wasn't that how it went?
It was like the 5th and 6th round. Once you got to a certain point of the 6th, they were both gone. But depending on what you did in your mock with Miami's lack of a 6th round initially.
Right. Yeah. So we get him. He's a little bit of a linear runner. He runs really high, right? Somebody mentioned. I forget somebody mentioned his style, but like he runs. You could tell he's a linear athlete. I mean, he is a big kid. And you know what? And he's another kid. I know he had an incident in the past, but everybody says he's a really good kid. Like this is a leader. This is he's got good personality. So, and this is a guy they really like. I know they like him in the building a lot. They like this pick. I'm excited to see him compete because he brings a different dimension. I just don't know what we're getting. I hope we're getting more of the 23 Ollie Gordon and what happened in 24 because he just didn't look good, right? There's a lot of excuses, and I'll give the kid credit. He didn't make excuses in his pre-draft or post-draft press conference. He didn't make any excuses. He said, look, it's on me. I didn't have a good year. So I like that. He was upfront about it. He could have thrown it on his O-line. He could throw it on the quarterback. Yes, those were all down. But they didn't like put 8 in the box to try to stop Ollie Gordon when I went back and looked a lot. He just wasn't as decisive. Didn't break the tackles like he did like the 23. But, man, you're getting a guy who's a Doak Walker winner in the 6th round just a year removed. And if he would have came out last year, he would probably win the top 60, 65 pick. He didn't run well. He ran 4.61. The outside zone, I concern a little bit about the outside zone. But, again, we mentioned we might be going into more of a power scheme or have a special package, and this guy can become in it. And I think that may be where we'll be going. I think we're not going to get away totally from it, Jason, but you agree? You think we could see some more power stuff, power gap, or maybe some more inside zone?
You would like to think so. Speed is great. Power is great. You know what's better? A healthy balance of both. So if they could develop that, absolutely. And I would like to see, as I've stated constantly, and you have as well.
Yep.
With an interior presence on the offensive line that's improved, with the power style back, you have to call plays that are literally the least amount of space between point A to point B, straight line. Yeah. Forget tosses, forget screens, forget, these plays that are reliant so much on getting outside and beating your man to the spot. I just want a pile push forward. And I think this is the guy to do it. Maybe not going to touch the ball 20 times a game,
right?
But when he does, succeed.
Yeah, he shares it. We got, right, H.N. and him, perfect complement to the room. They needed something like this. And guess what? We talk about teams running. I said this on the last show. Running that quarter high, shell defense. You want to stop that? You have to run the ball.
Exactly right.
People don't realize teams were not respecting. They were running that too high stuff and like 4 or 5 men in the box, and we still weren't running the ball. And you wonder why it didn't work out. Yeah, I think we left some plays on the field, but to fix this, and I think Tua's best when he has a running game and throws the ball 30 times a game, and it's 24 for 30 for 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, and picking you apart, like the point guard he is. So, I think let's move on to the last 2 picks. This one we talked about. We didn't go Shedeur Sanders, but we went Quinn Ewers, Finn Sammy's guy. Shout out to Bobby Schaus, who kind of broke that.
Yep.
We're going to take him. Your reaction to Quinn Ewers, Jason?
7th round. I know we've been here before recently, but Skylar Thompson did not have the arm talent that Quinn Ewers does. So, there is developmental potential here. See what this kid does. If he challenges, first step for me, beat Zach Wilson, like cause a problem with your $6 million backup quarterback who's a failed first rounder. Sorry, Zach, but you're on your 3rd team. You were a first round pick, so you're a failed first rounder. But I think that if he comes on and says, okay, my first step in the pros is to be Tua's backup, not a 3rd string quarterback, but if he could somehow come close or get that role, then we might have something cooking here. But I'm not putting all the chips on the table for that just necessarily, but I love his arm talent. I love his moxie, and again, for a 7th round pick, why not? Why not?
All right. So here's the thing about Quinn. I didn't love him during the pre-draft process. when I was going through them. I just didn't see it. I didn't see the velocity on the throws. So I went back and I looked. And I kind of what do I see here? What's the problem? He was obviously a big, probably the most heralded college quarterback recruit to come out all over social media. Started off backed up C.J. Stroud at Ohio State, then went to Texas, where I think he probably always wanted to shout out, fake fan. I think he's talking about is that Jonathan? So here's the thing: you see his throwing motion, right? He throws, he flicks a wrist, he throws the ball like a shortstop. It's great, beautiful motion, arm angles, all this fun stuff. But he's had a lot of injuries. I don't see the zip that I saw in 23 when they had that great win versus Alabama. You know, he did beat Michigan early on this season, but where does it go? Is the zip gone? I just want him to plant and throw the fastball sometimes. Stop being cute with it. It's the touch throw, the flick of the wrist throw is cute. Can he throw the fastball like in baseball? He can throw a nice changeup and slider. When he throws the fastball, does he lose command of it? And is that why he doesn't throw it? Right? Those are the questions. Or is the injuries, and maybe Jonathan could help me, or is the injury took away from the zip on the ball? Why doesn't he do it? That's going to determine if Quinn Ewers can even be a backup quarterback in this league. Is he going to get back to planting that foot, throwing with zip, and combining it with all this stuff? Aside from some decision-making stuff that got better, you know, he reads onto, you know, he locks onto a guy. But more importantly is, where did the zip go in his ball that you saw in high school, you saw in 22 and 23? Can he do it? Like, is there a reason why? I just don't see it, Jason. I haven't seen it in a couple of years. I
mean, look, let's see what happens in training camp when he initially steps onto the practice field. I would be a very happy camper if he's looking better than Zach Wilson. I'm not even bringing into the equation yet taking over for Tua. That's not the goal of the pick. If the goal of the pick was to give Tua immediate competition, the pick would have been a top 100 quarterback. They wouldn't have probably done what they did. It was never a plan to get to a competition or someone to push him out or challenge. This is a search for a backup quarterback for the next couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's worth a shot in the 7th round. I have no problem with it. If those things come back, if the zip comes back, then maybe you got something to develop here. But it's got to be more than the cute flick of the wrist stuff. Plant your feet, the footwork. He tries to, you know, kind of get cute with everything. He needs to sometimes just put that foot down, plant, and drive it. And is it because he loses accuracy? I think the fastball thing is, you know, guys who are really good changeup, slider, off speed, they throw the fastball, they can't command it. That's kind of my and Jonathan says he's got to get healthy. Yeah, but it's been a couple years since I've seen it, Jonathan. Once in a while it'll come back, but it's something I'm going to be looking for in camp because he does have arm talent. He does. I mean, he's like a shortstop throwing the ball. He can throw at different arm angles. With the flick of wrist, it comes out. So he's going to be interesting. Again, he's a developmental guy. Like you said, Jason, let's hope he's giving Zach Wilson some problems.
That's my barometer right now.
It's a good thing.
If we're hearing that Zach Wilson is the backup quarterback by a mile, you get what you pay for in the 7th round pick.
He'll be on the practice squad.
If we're hearing that he's making some noise, then you got some legs to this pick.
Yeah, I agree. All right, wrapping up their draft, Zeke Biggers. They went. His last name is.
I mean, look, 6'6" freak interior defensive lineman, could be 3 tech. You know, just more depth on that inside front. I love it. I mean, maybe he can help out on special teams a little bit, get his hands up on some blocked kick potential, which he's done in college. But I think this is a sneaky pick here. This is a sneaky pick for depth on that, you know, like I said, that 3 tech area in that rotation can gives veterans some burn. You know, I think he can make this team and contribute.
Yeah. So the thing is, Zeke Biggers, if I would lie to you if I told you I watched a lot of Zeke Biggers before the draft. So I went back. I went back and took a look at the University of Miami game, and I came away impressed. What stood out to me is, first of all, this guy came on campus. He dropped like 50 pounds, right? He was real heavy. He got into the best shape. He was around 6'6", 321. His length, I mean, he's got, what is his wingspan? His arm length is like 35 inches. He has an 80-plus wingspan. He's got good lateral agility. He holds anchor well.
He's got basketball player movement. Like, this guy is a former basketball player, and he moves like he's like a power forward.
And he's got a good motor. Like, there's a ton of, like, watching him, especially against UM, there's a ton of things to like about him. You know,
third highest vertical among
34.5 inch vertical. That shows tremendous lower body explosion.
Yeah.
And you see some of that.
Oh, yeah.
That's nothing to write home about. 34 and a half feet. That's like with some up at the DNs. You know what I mean?
Getting up there on third down and batting balls down. That's passes defended from the line, which is what two guys did very well who are no longer Dolphins, Agba and Campbell. They actually now have guys who could do that again.
Not to mention North Carolina. Shout out. So like, and he's long, holds anchors well. I saw like all these things he does. Like, don't be surprised he's in that. Like, they totally revamped that defensive tackle room with some young guys behind Kenneth Grant. Like, you look at him, there's a ton. Anthony Weaver's like, this was a scout's pick. Like, a scout was banging the table for him. Like, this is a guy, and Anthony Weaver could have. This is Anthony Weaver mold this guy with. I mean, you see the length and the size, the athleticism. Yes, again, a lot of technical stuff you see on tape, disengaging, he's got to work on. But the ability to hold anchor, the lateral movement, the motor he plays with gives me a lot of hope that he's young. He's agreed, like Jake says, only 21. We talked about the theme of this draft. In a draft with a lot of older players, they went really young. I like this guy, and he's another guy I would like to see in training camp. A lot to work with.
Another leadership,
yes.
Power, physicality, versatility. Leadership, versatility, physicality. That was the theme of
all of it, the whole draft.
The Biggers is all of that.
Yeah.
And I think you're gonna enjoy watching this kid move. This kid moves so fluidly for his size. He's gonna get up there. It's gonna be third and long. Up, Biggers gets up, Mutombo's it. Yeah. That's what he should be. He should be swatting the finger for a Mutombo block shot.
So we mentioned A first A. This second grouping, I go C plus. I'll meet in the middle. I'll give a B plus to this draft.
I gave the draft a B. I gave the whole entire draft a B. And if I remember, pick wise, it was A minus for each of the first two picks. I gave the trade down a B minus.
Yeah.
And then I gave each of those top fifth players, the two in Phillips and Marshall, a B each. I gave an A to Dante. I gave an A to Phillips and then a B to the defensive backs, Marshall and to Trader. And same idea with Ewers and Biggers. I think I might have even given Biggers an A minus, but Ewers I gave a B.
Shout out to
the B draft.
B plus. I'm in with you. Slice it any way you want.
But add in the pick for next year. Add in the knowledge that we kind of knew they were doing this building of a team. Not necessarily, all right, we're 3 picks away. You're not 3 picks away. We're not 3 players away. They're creating a new mindset. They're putting good stock of assets for next year's draft, or even take that third round that they got in their trade and maybe do something with it to get another cornerback out in combination of that, what have you. But let's see what happens in a year or two with these players and how they handle next year's draft. Because it's going to be a couple of players on this team are on payroll that are no longer there next year. And it's going to be kind of a fresh-ish start. So I think it was a good draft for another foundation to build upon.
I like this draft. I like the message they send. Yeah, we all like not to have a gap in between those picks, but it is what it is. Next year, I think somebody mentioned in the chat, next year when the draft rolls around, we'll be happy with that 2026 third round pick. But I'll tell you what, I like some of the undrafted guys. Let's take a look at some.
Yeah,
of the undrafted. Let's shout out to 562 people we got watching. If you're not on YouTube, come on over YouTube. We appreciate you watching there. Hit that like and subscribe button. We really appreciate it. George, Jason, you guys going to show up to the home opener? Haven't decided yet. We'll let you know if we do, though. Definitely.
Game time decision.
All right, let's get in. Let's get into the UDFAs. This is your specialty, Jason. You love putting these lists together. Shout out to Jason Sarney for having these lists. Who stands out to you? Let's start with the wide receivers. Andrew Armstrong is a guy I know. I mentioned Andrew Armstrong, I think, late in our draft show. Big, physical receiver. I think he's about 6'4", runs pretty good, great hands, vice grip for hands, doesn't drop anything, long catch radius, just a reliable receiver, good route runner. I think he's 78 catches for over 1,100 yards this season for Arkansas. I was surprised he didn't get drafted. I'm an Andrew Armstrong fan, Jason.
Great catch radius to go up and get it. A guy who could moss a defensive back and go up and get it on top, So I like this kid, big play potential. He said rock solid hands. It's 6'4". Of these 4 receivers, Theo, Weiss, and Armstrong are the taller ones.
Yep.
And of course, you got Hennig and Monterey, Baldwin, who are speedsters, or even return kind of potential guys. But I'm looking at one of these taller receivers, Armstrong especially, to maybe be an undrafted potential crack of the 53 roster.
Armstrong began his career at Texas A&M Commerce, went to Arkansas, only the 5th Arkansas receiver to have over 1,000 yards. Just like he's done well against top SEC competition corners too. He ran 4.51. I know some people had him running 4.37, but he's got good speed, good feet, good short area quickness. Again, reliable. A receiver with this size, they were clearly looking, because they paid these guys some money, especially him and Weiss. They were looking for that. And let's jump over to Theo Weiss. The thing about Theo Weiss, that they're kind of similar, both reliable receivers. Weiss played next to Luther Burton Jr. I think he led the team in reception yards. It wasn't Luther Burton Jr. Theo Weiss, another leader, a dog, and he's unbelievable for a 6'4", 6'3" receiver after the catch, Jason. That's what stood out to me about him.
Yeah, and he can, he can make the contested catch, chain mover kind of kid. Again, a taller receiver, 6'2", 6'3". So I like one of these guys, these outside taller guys.
Yeah, red zone threat, tracks the ball. One of these guys that got a shot. I think they're competing with each other. I don't think both have a shot. I think one or the other, if they make it, they're competing with each other. Just to mention another wide receiver, that Monterey Baldwin at Baylor. Wow, he's fun. He is electric. Like, he's going to be fun to watch. I mean, he was on Bruce Feldman's Freak List. I think he ran 4.32. He is small, but man, put on some highlights of Monterey Baldwin at a Baylor. And didn't leave that program, but things were getting tough. He stuck around. Again, another good character kid. I want to talk about Jalen Connors, the tight end. Man, another guy, Jonathan brings up that I thought was gonna get drafted. Jonathan agrees. Jake in the chat agrees. 6'3", 260. Did the Wildcat stuff. He's kind of like light Tyler Warren. He's obviously not Tyler Warren. Like, he had 1 year, 22 rushes for 94 yards. Throws the ball, direct snaps out of the Wildcat. Good hands, big, physical. Like, he needs to engage more in blocking, but he's definitely got the tools to be an inline blocker. But like, you can move him everywhere. A flex tight end, like, he was fun, man. Like, to get a guy with that size and that kind of ability, I'm surprised he didn't get drafted. He's probably one of maybe the most surprising that didn't get drafted that we signed.
Yeah, he made people miss, forcing a lot of missed tackles. One of the most from all D1 tight ends. So surprised he wasn't drafted. You could use him in the red zone. So yeah, maybe a steal here.
Yeah, you can use him X. You can use him in the slot, flex, H-back, Wildcat. He's still developing. He's still developing as a blocker. But again, he's high as he's been 260, 267. Good athlete. Everybody wanted Tyler Warren. There's a little bit obviously he's not Tyler Warren, but some of the things Warren did, this guy does. So he's a guy I think has a legitimate shot. All these guys we're mentioning, I think, are guys who we think have a legitimate shot of making the roster. Another guy, the corner, Brandon Adams, BJ Adams, Jason at UCF. Anything on him?
The corner's a position that's open. It is open competition. And you look at a guy like a Storm Duck last year as an undrafted free agent, Ethan Bonner, undrafted free agent, who's, not necessarily up yet making a consistent mark, but he's in the mix. And then what's going to happen with Cam Smith? So you look at a guy like a BJ Adams, who could have been drafted, 5th or 6th round grade, by some people. Big time prototype size at 6'2", good size arms, long arms. So hopefully he performs in training camp and, maybe even practice roster too. I mean, defensive backfield is long corner.
It's open. So, and the Dolphins' success with I was looking at Ethan Robinson too. I had never watched him before. He's got some, these guys are competing. They have a history of targeting guys in UDFAs, Storm Duck, Kader Kahoo, the list goes on, Nick Needham. But like, Adams is a guy who, lacks ball skills, like doesn't have much, but he's a long corner. And who he played really well against? Your 2 Iowa State guys.
Oh, yeah.
Noel
and Higgins.
Because he's long.
Yeah, he can play all over. He's got versatility too.
Yeah. So I think there's something there with BJ Adams. Another guy I thought I know they brought in. They're high on. I want to mention quickly the linebacker Eugene Asante. Special teams. This guy's a beast. I mean, he ran 4.48. His brother's Larry Asante, got the bloodlines. Explosive kind of athlete for that position. I think he's a guy. If you got to ask me, is he going to play special teams? Then I'll tell you if he makes the team. Right? I think with Asante, I think the guard out of Michigan has a chance. Yeah. He's a good technician. Looking through the list. Oh, I want to bring up John Sanders. John Sanders, man, I looked at him and when I get a feel for a guy when I see him, and I looked at him, I said, man, he loves to hit. He comes up, he comes up in the box. He's got really good. I think he had 3 interceptions, 4 forced fumbles. We talked about creating turnovers. This guy has a knack for punching the ball out. You see it on film. He punches the ball out, creates turnovers. He's big. He's 6'2", 211, SEC performer. I couldn't believe after I watched him that he wasn't drafted. I didn't know a ton about John Sanders, because you can't get through everybody. There's a bunch of players. After I watched, I go, man, he didn't get drafted. He looks the part. Yeah, Bar shout out Sanders is one of my favorite too. Yeah, man, he's got this knack of punching the ball out. He creates turnovers. I think he even led the SEC in total turnovers with 3 picks and 4 forced fumbles. That's a lot to force 4. That's a talent. You work on that. So John Sanders, I think a guy, yes, a big body who can hit and ball hawk. Yes. Again, the safety room, Jason, competition to be had. So those are some of the guys. I think it's a good group. I think it's a group that usually a couple guys make it, right? So it's hard till we get to training camp here and kind of see what we really got.
Absolutely, but there's always one. There's always one that stands out kind of like right away.
And early, yeah.
And there's always 2 or 3 that will be like, all right, you can't keep everybody, but they'll end up somewhere else probably, or maybe even if you can get lucky enough, stick them around the practice squad. There's wiggle room, but there's 2 or 3 guys that can make a run. Saunders certainly one of them.
Yeah. So that wraps up the group, the draft class. Before we head out, I want to put up the banner here for Ian. We had Ian on. Obviously, he told us about his journey and all he's going through. Please, guys, visit the website below here. It's Ian's Microsite. It's just a national kidney registration. You're in the right place, even though it's for a liver donor. Follow that link. It's in the YouTube description. Please share it, even if you can't help. Get as many eyes on it. We want to get Ian better. We can all we can to help Ian. He deserves it. We'll be back. I'll be back Monday. I'll have Ryan Roberts from A to Z Sports get his thoughts on this whole thing. He's one of the best. Thursday, we got something cooking, Jason. We'll figure it out. We'll announce it. We'll always have something cooking. We appreciate you guys joining us over almost 600 in the room. Again, prayers up for Big E, man. That's yes. And we appreciate everybody in the room. Everybody who joined us tonight. Thank you for joining your Thursday night with us. As always, guys. Fins up. We'll see you guys later.